A few weeks ago, I could barely sleep, and as I laid there staring at the ceiling, something had been bothering me from doing this job. And that is, I think there's something fundamentally wrong with the automotive industry right now. And this is from talking to owners of cars, potential owners, those inside brands, and of course, the younger generation who can barely afford to stay afloat. So I wanted to start this by posing a question to those that work inside the automotive manufacturers, the executives, the PR marketing, the engineers and designers, and everybody in between. What new car would you consider buying long-term to keep for over 10 years that wasn't a corporate handout or a lease, something you had to pay with your own money? And I'm not talking about a 911, a Corvette, or a Miata either, a real car to keep on the road, from tires, brakes, consumables, repair costs. And more importantly, what cars inside the brand that you've worked on would you consider or would you be able to afford to buy on your own? And if you're having a hard time coming up with an answer to that, imagine what the rest of the world is thinking. So I'm going to start with talking about the top 3 reasons why I believe we're in this situation, and I'll go into more detail in a minute. Starting with global government regulations, a very easy target here, on fuel economy standards, safety, and emissions control. The second is the automotive brands and manufacturers and engineers inside these brands not stopping to ask, are we actually making these products better? And the third, which is the biggest, is customers. Most customers do not understand how anything works. And when you get into really technical topics, all of these things combined have led us down this path. Now let's start with the nuanced discussion of global regulations. Doesn't matter what country you live in, chances are there's some laws that regulate what brands can do in terms of safety, fuel economy, and emissions standards. And I truly believe that a lot of these laws were created with good intent. It's a noble idea, keep families safe, keep air quality good, on and on. But where I think the problem has become, and it's not about right or wrong, is a lot of these regulations were created by people that do not have a technical aptitude or understanding of how these systems work and how it affects not only the industry, but the consumer that buys them and has to keep them on the road long term. And that's where this has become a whole bigger issue. So let's start with this. The internal combustion engine has been around for about 100 years, right? You put fuel into it, you burn it, you refill and keep going, right? And this design has been slowly evolved out, slower than we'd like to admit, but it kind of hit its peak in the late 90s, early 2000s in terms of reliability and just, making it work. So what's happened since then is most of the global regulatory body has just decided, well, we don't want internal combustion anymore. It's bad. We need to make it more restrictive to make it cleaner, better emissions, and we want to move towards cleaner energy like electrification, hybridization, or hydrogen, or whatever somebody else dreams up. So the regulations have gotten more strict, or in some cases very strict in certain countries, to say we need to get rid of this or it all has to be electrified. And what that does to a technology that was never designed for this over 100 years is you've had to have this accelerated development of engineering on these internal combustion engines to meet these requirements, which means more money for the brands. They have to do it faster than they've ever had to do before, and they have to implement new and unproven technology to meet these targets. So what it does is it's way more expensive and it's way more complicated. So instead of just taking like a standard 4-cylinder or a V6 engine, now you're adding on turbos, which adds additional cooling, additional oiling considerations, more computers, more ECUs, advanced EGR, different types of fuel systems, high pressure fuel pumps, different injectors. You have a whole slew of other control systems on these to make sure that they're working in terms of not only thermal management, but the emissions management, and I could go on and on. And what you'll see here is you've taken something that was relatively proven, easy to work on and get parts for, and now you've just tripled the complication. Now, while you could say the brands have made it easy to assemble in the factory and now they've figured that out, that's great for them. But most of the engineers we talk to have no idea how much the parts cost in the real world to fix the very things they help to design, either in terms of labor or parts. And I just joked around with an engineer we're really close with. He's explaining about this tire technology they came up with that gave the car really good handling and feeling good, and it still did good with fuel, or not fuel economy, but range. And I'm like, do you know how much that tire cost? He's like, he had no idea. It was $900 per tire. And I'm like, how could you not? And in my head, I'm like, how could you not know that? Well, that's what a lot of these brands do. They don't think about the long-term part of it, which is why I posed the question at the beginning, what car would you actually buy new? And that's where this becomes a very difficult situation for most of the consumers. So now let's expand up beyond that. That's just meeting the current emission standards. Well, some brands and some countries have even more restrictive requirements where doing all those things I said are not good enough. You have to electrify this setup now. Not only do you have this complicated internal combustion engine, but now you're adding electric motors, which are very reliable generally, but then you're adding an additional battery pack to power them. And then you still have a 12-volt battery, your standard lead-acid battery. And then you have all the wiring, all the electronics, additional cooling, additional weight. Then you have the safety part of it. Cars are now much heavier because you're adding more and more airbags. Again, more wiring, more electronics to monitor this. And these cars have gone from something that was relatively somewhat easier to maintain and work on to something that is much bigger than what our current infrastructure can support in terms of repair and keeping them on the road. Not only in terms of cost, but repairability. In the United States, there's a huge shortage of mechanics. This is not a big surprise. When you look at what they have to do, why would you want to do that job? The other thing too is every brand has proprietary technology. While they might have similar suppliers and similar parts, they're all specific to that individual car, which means there's not some magic Indiana Jones warehouse that has billions of replaceable parts there for you to fix your cars in 10 years. It's not like that. Once the brand moves on to the next generation technology, they keep only what is absolutely necessary. And when they don't, and they have to go back to a supplier to remanufacture a certain part, you could be waiting a couple days, you could be waiting a couple months for that part, and you're at the complete mercy of the brand to manufacture those parts, and they also control the pricing on it. It's not like you can just walk into an AutoZone and, hey, can I get this fuel system ECU or this ECU for some esoteric hybrid system that no longer is in existence. So my point is that cars are now extraordinarily complicated. Individual or privately owned repair shops are at an impossible position to find the talent to fix them, impossible to afford the tools required and the electronics to troubleshoot these things, and they can't get parts from a traditional place at an affordable rate. So while the brands are really excited they met the regulations, look, we have screens, we have all these touch screens in cars, we can connect to the internet, you can download apps, the car's quiet, look how fast it is, look at all this tech that we have in it. They don't care particularly about what Johnny Red Blade has to deal with over here in his family at year 10 when you're stuck with a very expensive car that you still are paying on. Well, not maybe, hopefully not at year 10, but you paid on that car a long time, and now you're having to figure out how to fix that very expensive car. And this is where it's a problem with people not understanding how things work. It's a problem with our government regulatory body not understanding the technology behind how complicated these cars are. And it's the thing with the brands. These engineers and these brands and a lot of people inside, they're just trying to get their job done. They're not really thinking about, should we be doing this, and pushing back on these areas where are we making these cars too disposable just for the sake of like marketing to make them look bright and shiny? What is the cause and effect on the actual customer? And you're starting to see this more and more, and this is why it's driving me crazy. I get in these cars and I'm just like, why are they doing this? Do they even understand what they're doing? Do they understand how much work and how much money and how much cost and headcount resources it's going to take to support the stuff that they're trying to do and iterate that doesn't really make these cars better? And, you know, I try to explain this to people, like, have you looked at how much it actually costs to keep this car on the road? And people just, it's like, it doesn't factor in. It's like, oh, I never thought of that. The last discussion is technology, and I had this conversation with one of my brand reps who I respect a lot about one of their cars, and I'm sure he hates my guts because I make his life miserable, but he told me a story internally which he said he didn't know if it was folklore or not, but they were in a meeting where one of the executives was turning a light switch on and off. And he did it, whatever, a ton of times. And he's like, you know what? Every single time I throw this light switch, it works. Every single time. And that was the idea of how they wanted their cars to work. And this is truly a lost art. And when you're dealing with technology, a lot of these brands have these big ideas of what they want to do without the foresight to ask, why are we doing it? Should we be doing it? And what is it going to be like to support, maintain, and what's the end result of this going to be? Is it really a better car, or is it just a tech play there for marketing purposes? Because once you go down that rabbit hole with technology, if it's not right, you are going to have a nightmare on your hands. And I don't think that brands understand this. And the amount of resources it takes to do it right is just astronomical. So again, most of the brands don't do it right. They don't know how to do it. And it all starts at the beginning, asking the right questions. And because it's become so commonplace now in the tech sector where things don't work right and brands are able to fix it later, car manufacturers have gotten comfortable with that same idea in implementing their tech as well. If we don't have it right today, we overpromise, underdeliver, and then roll out software updates later. And that's really a sad place to be, because if you want to be real and you look at the tech space, Microsoft doesn't offer updates for their operating systems past 5 years, unless it's like critical security updates. They're trying to get out of that system. You have just a handful of major brands that design phone OS, really two, and they can't keep up with their software updates. So what makes automotive brands think that they somehow can reinvent the wheel and do it better than the tech giants who have largely fallen by the wayside? Some of the biggest companies have failed at trying to roll out technology and support it long term. So, again, all of this falls on the consumer. If the brand fails at it, there's no way a customer can fix this stuff, or it's all proprietary. It's not open source. You can't fix the software yourself. It's all locked down. And I think this is all a big lose for a customer overall, even if you had good intentions like, oh yeah, we're going to do all this stuff. Easier said than done. So again, all of these things have perpetuated this cycle of cars that are now just a burden in terms of trying to keep on the road long term, not only for the customer, the brand, but also the decision makers that have gotten the cars to where they're at today. At the end of the day, what can you do about all this? And really, it's about raising awareness. And I want to make this very clear. When I talk about engineers, designers, executives, brands, and even lawmakers, I know that this is a concern for many of them, that this is not lost on them. But unfortunately, it's a very small piece of a very big puzzle. And in the case of the automotive industry, once that train leaves the station, it's really hard to stop it, because development starts years ahead of when the product actually hits the ground. And by then, if there's problems, it's very hard to fix them. And I'm going to be honest, if this was top of mind, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in, where internal combustion cars are the most expensive they've ever been, with average transaction prices pushing $50,000 in the United States. They're more complicated, there's repairability is more questionable, and long-term ownership is more expensive due to consumables and everything else. And the replacement vehicles such as EVs and hybrids are even more complicated than those in many cases, and the repairability, because of the generation they're in, long-term is even worse, which is why most of these vehicles are leased. In the luxury segment, it's over 95%, because people don't want to be on the hook for them long-term, which again creates a disposable society of cars that you were trying to avoid by trying to clean up our industry, cleaning up the cars, tailpipe emissions, improving fuel economy. So basically, now you have expensive internal combustion, you have expensive electric cars, and it's way harder for the normal person to afford this. So if you are an engineer and you're an executive or your brand, start thinking about what you would do if you had to keep a car for 10 years. Would you make it really hard to repair? Would you make the parts super scarce or esoteric? Or the tire choices for your cars that are $500 a piece, where it could literally be a month's mortgage to replace a set of tires? If you're on the consumer side, you really need to get more educated on how these things work, from the technical systems, but on the very basic level, how much do tires cost? How much is it going to cost to repair or do maintenance after they're out of their warranty period? And can you keep them on the road after 10 years? Will there be parts? These are very important questions when you're spending nearly $40,000, $50,000 or even more on a new car. And last but not least is the legislative side. And clearly, If you're in government, regardless of your country, if you don't know how these systems work, meet with some engineers on many brands. I know they will talk to you. They will explain these very topics. And the contradictory nature of some of these rules and laws that are set to actually make things better are making things more difficult or creating more disposable products. And that's my big concern.